Welcome back to SuperString. Today I will show you a 2019 satire film named Son of a Rich. Spoilers ahead. Keep an eye out and fare thee well. Grisha is the child of probably the most extravagant man in Russia and goes about thusly. He's ruined, staggeringly discourteous, and causes problems since he never gets ramifications for his activities. He does nothing valuable in his life, he simply goes through his days celebrating, drinking, and utilizing ladies. One evening, subsequent to throwing out a young lady he had guaranteed a ride to in light of the fact that she wouldn't get close with him, Grisha is come by the police for speeding. He attempts to pay off Captain Semyonov as he does with each cop he meets, however Semyonov will not acknowledge the cash. Grisha is as yet hypersensitive to results however, so he attempts to drive away, and Semyonov gets before the vehicle to stop him. This doesn't stop Grisha, whose compassion is non-existent, and he continues to drive with Semyonov clutching the hood of the vehicle. Minutes after the fact, Grisha's father Pavel goes to the police headquarters to pay the bail and deliver his child, who keeps on being a ruined whelp requesting to be served, even while secured in a cell. The boss helps Pavel to remember all the annihilation Grisha has caused the beyond couple of months, including a yacht, and presently he's sent a cop to the medical clinic with grave wounds. The kid is just crazy, and Pavel genuinely needs to follow through with something. After the bail gets compensated, Pavel admonishes Grisha for his way of behaving and compromises with removing him, yet Grisha doesn't mind since he realizes his father is basically harmless. Feeling extraordinarily worried, Pavel visits his companion with benefits, TV maker Anastasia, to discover some solace in her presence. He doesn't have the foggiest idea how to manage his child any longer, and he couldn't send him to the military since he previously got him out of being enlisted before. Anastasia gets a thought then. At that point, she knows a person that she used to work with on blood and gore flicks that could prove to be useful. His techniques are capricious yet extremely powerful, and Pavel acknowledges to visit him. They find Lev Arnoldovich in his frightening house dangling from the roof with a rope around his neck, yet it's all phony. This is the very thing that he does best, creating gadgets and enhancements to deceive the eye. In the wake of showing Pavel the technique he utilized with a smoker client, which was professing to remove his finger, Pavel goes nuts a bit and needs to leave, yet Anastasia persuades him to essentially hear Lev's arrangement for Grisha. Numerous days after the fact, Grisha is emerging from a club when he sees his vehicle being towed, so he pursues the truck just to have chance and fall oblivious abruptly. He gets up hours after the fact to wind up in a steady, wearing abnormal garments, and being told by helper Artyom that he really wants to saddle the ponies or their master will fly off the handle. Grisha fails to see what is happening, particularly when foreman Avdiy Mikulich comes to drag him out and kick him while hollering at him for not following requests. At that point, the landowner Dmitry Timofeev and his child Alexei Timofeev appear and give Avdiy a whip, which he utilizes once on Grisha for not following requests. Dmitry advises him to prepare the pony now, or he'll deteriorate discipline, yet when Artyom returns him to the stable, Grisha goes through the window and takes off. He is by all accounts in a town in 1860s Russia, before the nullification of serfdom. As he runs, Grisha asks individuals for help, mentioning a telephone or even the police, however no one knows what he's talking about. In the end, he comes to the domain borders and unintentionally falls into a lake, so when he returns to the town to get dry garments, he's caught by Avdiy and taken to be hanged for having taken off. Fortunately for him, Dmitry's girl Aglaya offers up and requests that her father have kindness on the detainees since she's fed up with all the killing. Seeing as it is her birthday, Dmitry concurs and Grisha is permitted to live. A bird is hovering above them, taking everything in prior to leaving to enter a structure close to the edge of town. It's really not a bird, it's a robot professing to be one. Since this entire arrangement isn't time traveling, it is Lev's arrangement to show Grisha a few discipline, and Pavel's cash takes into consideration such a costly creation. Lev is in control with the assistance of Anastasia, who involves her experience as a TV maker to push the deception along with no errors. There are cameras concealed wherever around, even in the trees, and there's generally a marksman prepared to shoot Grisha with a sedative on the off chance that something turns out badly. In the wake of seeing the whipping of his child is genuine, Pavel is beginning to contemplate whether he's made the best choice, yet Lev persuades him this is to Grisha's benefit. In the wake of seeing Lev and Anastasia contend, Pavel can't assist with thinking about what's the issue among them, and Lev makes sense of that when Anastasia said they chipped away at a blood and gore film together, she implied they used to be hitched. While Grisha invests an energy alone in the steady finding some peace with the reality he's gone in time, the entertainers are given the contents for the following scene. The chief helps everybody to remember the guidelines. Ladies shouldn't shave their legs, men shouldn't shave their countenances, and things like bras, clothing, studs, and rings are illegal. Alexei gets his contents subsequent to expressing hi to his better half, Liza, what works identity is accountable for the ponies and not acting. He likewise ridicules Aglaya for her agreement. The authors believe she should be Grisha's old flame, and that implies she'll need to lay down with him, and that has Alexei pondering where the line between entertainer finishes and prostitute starts. Grisha begins living through a horrendous everyday practice in the town. He needs to awaken before daybreak, eat stock with just flies as meat, work with ponies he's terrified of, purpose the woodland as his restroom, wear pants without clothing, and get whipped each time he's insolent. One evening, Misha is enjoying some time off from work when he out of nowhere hears Aglaya crying, who clears up for him that she's miserable in light of the fact that her dad believes her should wed an old rich man. Rather than showing compassion, Grisha believes it's really smart, since, in such a case that the man is so old then, at that point, he'll bite the dust soon, and Aglaya will get all the cash. Occasionally later, Grisha takes a chicken and requests that Artyom get him a few apparatuses to make a soup, which Grisha winds up eating everything all alone, as opposed to offering it to Artyom, who did the greater part of the work. Whenever Avdi finds the chicken robbery, he requests that the offender admit or he'll whip somebody at arbitrary. By and by, Grisha neglects to show any compassion toward another individual and sees how Artyom is removed for whipping without saying a word. Minutes after the fact, Artyom meets with Grisha and shows him the scars on his back, graciousness of the makeup office. Grisha proceeds not to mind, and keeping in mind that making sense of Artyom why, he sees Liza leaping off a pony and notification that she wearing present-day clothing when her skirt incidentally stalls out. This could mean something for his circumstance, so he pursues her and tosses her on the ground to attempt to see her underwear once more. However, fortunately different residents mediate and get him off her so she can take off. Seeing as Grisha isn't gaining any headway, Pavel needs to close down the entire effort, yet their conversation is intruded on by some huge news. Grisha is searching for Liza to apologize. The resident entertainers from the start overlook him, since he shouldn't actually know Liza. However, Lev figures this an extraordinary chance to finish a few advancement and orders the entertainers to let him know where she resides. Grisha apologizes to Liza, who has carried a wood stay with a nail for good measure, and Liza acknowledges the statement of regret, however vows to in any case be careful about him for some time. Occasionally later, now is the ideal time to observe Ivan Kupala, a customary occasion viewed as the most mystical evening of the year. Legends say that whoever you go through the late evening praising with will enjoy their entire lives with you. At the party, Grisha shows the artists how to play the lambada and gets the townspeople to shape a line dance, which Aglaya hops into to let Grisha know that the possibility of an organized marriage is a lot for her to deal with, so she'll stroll into the lake this evening. Rather than following her to stop her, however, Grisha finds Liza and starts recounting the innovation representing things to come after she shows compassion for him and his depression and lets him know she accepts him when he says he's a person who jumps through time. Their talk is interfered with by Artyom, who after a few bombed endeavors to occupy Grisha from Liz, specifies Aglaya has been seen close to the lake. Grisha at last draws an obvious conclusion and hurries to the lake to save her and return her to the town. Be that as it may, when she goes onto him, he turns her down and goes looking for Liza, all things considered. She isn't at the party, so he goes to her home, where all assistants rush to stow away before she opens the entryway. Grisha needs to go through the night in Liza's organization to check whether the legend will materialize for them. However, Liza isn't intrigued and shuts the entryway all over. The following day, Lev concludes Liza will be Grisha's new old flame, so she turns into one more entertainer on set. She could do without Grisha definitely and will not acknowledge to kiss or lay down with him. However, she needs to assist with making him a superior individual, regardless of whether Alexei isn't exceptionally content with seeing his sweetheart get involved this way. The creation starts another plot in the story. Alexei is seen as plastered midtown, having brought a great deal of hardship and getting the sheriff injured, thinking it was his right since he's a respectable. Rather than feeling appalled by the qualification, however, Grisha gets desirous in light of the fact that he thinks Alexei had an exceptionally fun night out. His demeanor changes notwithstanding when Dmitry maintains that he should assume his child's position and get the discipline rather than him. From the beginning, Grisha would rather not get it done, however Dmitry offers him his opportunity and great food in return, so he acknowledges. This time he makes sure to impart the food to Artyom. In the meantime, Anastasia and Lev begin to get along once more, and Pavel stresses that they might reunite. However, Lev finds this thought funny on the grounds that Anastasia clearly adores Pavel. This is stunning information for him since he's generally thought their thing was just lewd, and presently he has a genuine reasoning to do. Grisha is whipped 24 times, yet Pavel can't force himself to watch it on the screen, so he leaves the room. Anastasia follows him and solaces him by demonstrating how well Lev's arrangements work. It was his finger-cutting stunt that helped her quit smoking. After the discipline is finished, Grisha goes to the landowner's home to request the papers that would allow him his opportunity. Dmitry isn't anywhere near, so Alexei gets him, just to toss him on the floor, kick him and spit on him, while calling him a moron for truly accepting they would liberate him, no doubt. Grisha stands and shuts his clenched hands, pondering guarding himself, however chooses to take off from the house without a word, to Lev's failure. From that point on, Grisha keeps on functioning as a helper, yet he additionally begins investing more energy with Liza and going gaga for her. One evening, while they are going for a stroll together, they see a bird flying in an exceptionally strange example. A robot has let completely go. While the makers prepare the sharpshooter in the event that it falls, Liza attempts to divert Grisha by letting him know she's seen the bird since she was a youngster and she trusts it to be her heavenly messenger. Fortunately, eventually, there's no requirement for the sharpshooter. The specialists recapture control of the bird and get it out of there. In the interim, Alexei and Aglaya are both somewhat irate with how things are going. Aglaya can't completely accept that she's been supplanted by Liza, and Alexei could do without seeing his sweetheart invest such a lot of energy with another man. Both of them wind up having intercourse inside a carriage and are inadvertently found by Grisha and Liza, who were cruising by. Liza is incredibly wounded by having her beau undermining her, and Grisha believes he's seen two kin getting messy with one another. Along these lines, Lev fires Aglaya and Alexei. Liza's disposition isn't generally excellent from that point forward, so to encourage her, Grisha designs the stable with candles and makes an extraordinary coffee shop for her, which they eat together while sharing a fork. A short time later, they go stargazing, and that's what Grisha concedes, assuming he was free, he would wed Liza. Recalling how he was deceived by the guarantee of his papers, he admits he needed to punch Alexei and he didn't, on the grounds that when he took a gander at him, he saw himself. Moved by the amount he's developed, Liza kisses him. In the interim, in reality, Aglaya is on a renowned syndicated program, educating the world concerning how Grisha has been hijacked and presently is getting tormented for no particular reason. The police show up on the news declaring an examination, and when Pavel sees this, he frenzies and needs to close everything down before they show up. Lev, in any case, lets him know it's too early, that they have opportunity and energy to design a last chivalrous represent Grisha to pull off. Seeing as Grisha is stupid and finds on no erroneous dates going on, they choose to send a gathering of Mongols to attack the town. Grisha is investing energy with Liza when she abruptly lets him know that, if for reasons unknown they get isolated, she believes him should know that for her, beginning and end has been genuine. Artyom shows up then, at that point, and advises them to immediately return to the town on the grounds that the Mongols have gone after. Accepting the story without any issues, Grisha feels that they ought to go the alternate method for staying away from risk, so Artyom utilizes a reason. Lev takes care of him through his secret amplifier. The Mongols will consume the town in the event that each specialist isn't there. In the town, the Mongols have been given a gigantic food offering, however their chief additionally needs a lady, so he picks one from the group. Her dad promptly bounces in to protect her, and since Mongols regard fortitude, they permit him to duel one of their officers for her opportunity. The dad loses and gets executed, however since he paid with his blood, this is sufficient to purchase his little girl's opportunity. So the following lady the pioneer picks is Liza, yet regardless of the amount she shouts out for Grisha's assistance, he moves frightened and goes off. Seeing the arrangement didn't work, Pavel is prepared to close everything down, particularly since the police are coming, yet Lev needs to stand by somewhat longer since he has confidence in him. At the point when Grisha sees the bird drone fly above him, he accepts it as a sign from Liza's heavenly messenger and chooses to make the best choice. He gets on a pony and, subsequent to snatching Liza's old stick, he rides back and hits the Mongols on the head prior to getting Liza on the pony with him and riding ceaselessly. Just after they leave, the police show up on set. Since Grisha isn't anywhere near, it's simple for Pavel, Anastasia, and Lev to mislead them and just let them know they're shooting a film, which the officials accept, leaving without capturing anybody. In the interim, Grisha and Liza ride past as far as possible and find a corner store, which incredibly confounds Grisha. Liza is going to make sense of everything for him, however that is the second the expert marksman decides to strike and take Grisha out. He wakes later in the clinic, where Pavel lets him know he's been 3 months in a state of insensibility after an auto collision and claims not to know what Grisha is referring to when he gets some information about the town and Liza. Grisha attempts to return to his old celebrating life, yet it doesn't feel right any longer, and even gifts his vehicle to Captain Semyonov to make up for how he treated him. One night, while in a club, Grisha tracks down Alexei and Aglaya and attempts to get some information about Liza, yet they profess not to know him. Grisha apologizes for the disarray while looking unimaginably crushed, so the entertainers choose to have compassion for him and give him some data. The next day, they take Grisha to the farm, where the creation leased the ponies and Liza works at, and when he at last sees her once more, he inquires as to whether what she had said is valid, and it genuinely had all been genuine for her. Whenever she affirms it, the couple kiss and starts another relationship. In a little while, Grisha accepts Liza as his in addition to one to his dad's wedding to Anastasia, where he expresses gratitude toward him for having placed him in this insane task and making a superior individual out of him. From that point on, more ruined rich whelps are taken to the town frequently, and Grisha assists with their restoration.